We've got a brand new Pokémon game launching on a brand new Nintendo console, but don't worry last-gen players, Pokémon Legends ZA is on Switch 2 and Switch 1, and the best part, we've already scoured the reviews to bring you the general consensus of this latest Poké Party, which is a little divided this time out. But just a heads up for those of you not in the know, Pokémon Legends has many shared elements with the core Pokémon franchise, but the Legends subseries does imply a more free connecting experience from a third-person perspective, giving a more action-centric flair with the traditional RPG underpinnings. Some people like it more, some people prefer the old-school layout. I'm sure that debate will continue in the comments section. But over on OpenCritic, we can see an overall strong rating with an 82 top critic average and a 77% critics recommendation. But as you'll see once we get into the reviews, the critics are divided on the overall impact of these changes but still largely recommend the game. Let's kick it off with Eurogamer, who gave Pokémon Legends ZA a cool 3 out of 5 stars, but the actual text shows a conflicted recommendation. Quote, "It's still visually limited despite the huge improvements on the last pair. It's still missing dungeons, deep mystery, a sense of big challenge to build up to, prepare for, and overcome. It's a bridging game in a way, which these Legend games were probably always meant to be between the main series ones. A breezy, charming in-between entry that could argue its limits needn't be a problem, if only the games it was arriving between were a little sturdier." End quote. As we'll see in these reviews, many of these critics have experienced Pokemon through multiple iterations, so they're fairly well educated on the franchise, noticing the small changes and very familiar with the nagging issues. Over at Nintendo Life, the Switch 2 version received a 7 out of 10, who disliked the Lumiose City Central location but ultimately said, quote, "Instead of feeling like a fresh new spin on the Legends formula, Legends ZA squeezes it into an X and Y shaped sequel. In many ways it's more focused, but ZA loses a lot of the charm and the smaller environments don't entice me to dig into every nook and cranny of the city. It's so close to being a great Pokemon game thanks to its combat, which alone makes it worth picking up, but ultimately it's just a good one." End quote. But what do you say we switch over, no pun intended, to a much more positive review from the 6th Axis, who gave ZA a perfect 10 out of 10 review, in part because of the game's focus on urban environment, which did exist in previous games but largely as a visual change rather than any real differing interactive elements. But this time out, Lumiose City has been decked out to give a more fully featured environment. Quote, "You'll be bounding around like some kind of Pokemon ninja warrior. There's research quests to do and more. While you may not leave Lumiose, why would you want to when there's so much to see, do, catch, and climb?" And beautifully shows what city life is like in the Pokemon universe. I could see myself playing this for another 100 hours as I finish my Pokédex shiny hunt and generally have a great time. This is easily the best Pokemon game on the market." End quote. And in that same spirit, it should be noted Pokemon is much more than its complex meta or even its graphics. For many players, it comes down to the overall presentation, how the music sounds, what the characters look like in the game's art style. After all, many of the classic games weren't technical wonders even back in their day, but the music and scenarios became iconic, like Games Radar explains in their 4 out of 5 star review. Quote, "From the atmospheric songs that play as you explore the city to the many different battle themes, I genuinely think we have some old-timers on our hands here. Pokemon Legends ZA may not be the perfect open-world adventure, but slice-of-life vibes and brilliant battle system changes are a real delight, and I hope this isn't the last we see of its innovations. In many ways, it feels like what Pokemon should have been all along." End quote. VG247 echoes the sentiment in their review, including an identical 4 out of 5 stars, discussing how ZA is actually quite different from the usual narratives largely associated with Pokemon games. Quote, "Pokemon ZA's plot honestly feels like it could be from a Pokemon movie, and that's not a bad thing. It's a nice change from the typical become the Pokemon champion and complete the Pokédex while you're at it affair the mainline games typically follow. Though the tutorial does drag, the storyline benefits from being well-paced and not being afraid to introduce a wide cast. The writing also embraces the fact that the Pokemon universe is quite often ridiculous, giving the game quite a good sense of humor and actually made me laugh out loud a couple of times, which I can't say any Pokemon game has done before." End quote. But it wouldn't be fair if we didn't include one meta and mechanic-based review, especially regarding the returning Mega Evolutions, and who better than RPG site to break down the more subtle changes to the overall game design. And it's safe to say they loved it, dropping a 9 out of 10 review while breaking down the Mega Evolution battles. Quote, "These are very similar to the boss fights present in Pokemon Legends Arceus, although players are intended to Mega Evolve their own Pokemon in opposition, finding openings to deal damage while dodging projectiles and attack patterns. They're a nice change of pace, frequent enough in the main story, but not ever so present that they overshadow the rest of the game. If this is the future of the series, more experimental Legends titles which attempt to broaden the Pokemon world in ways that only they can, instead of merely retreading old ground with remakes. I couldn't be happier." End quote. But now it's your turn. Are you going to pick up Pokemon ZA? What do you think about the Legends subseries? And who is the best Pokemon? Besides Jigglypuff, of course. Chat back in the comments below, keep clicking around here at Game Rant, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks, everybody!